Welcome back to a family business podcast. We are here today to talk about what, Andrea?
I think we're going to talk about source of business and websites and how people are spending their money and maybe what, from experiences, what is good and the bad and, how things are changing.
Yeah, so if you're looking to invest into your business and don't know exactly where to put that money, we're going to cover a couple different things that we've put our money into and where we're kind of seeing success and where we pivoted to as well. So I know you mentioned websites. You want to talk about a little bit how our current website works and what kind of all comes with the website and the system that we have with it.
Well, if you're talking about so I guess I should clarify too, websites. By websites, I mean search engines, not just like bradboeye.com where you learn how, cute Brad is and PT is. Yes.
That is true.
Search engines.
Facts.
Search engines. And we currently use YLOPO for our search engine, which I don't know how deep we're going to dive into YLOPO, but those of you that use it, I think we've just touched the tip of the iceberg on the different ways that is.
If even.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we've definitely, our ROI, we've either broke even or been making money because of it.
Yeah.
Return on investment. Is that what I'm trying to say?
You can't really calculate the ROI real easily, that you're also getting a lot of exposure off of YLOPO. So, yeah, the leads, sure, but you also have that unmeasured exposure.
Right, which is why I don't think I want to go down the YLOPO train today, just because I think there's a lot of other factors to consider in that. I think what I want to double down on is just discussing the different search engines. And obviously, Brad, 24 years, you've been doing this, 17 for me, is that right? And PT 4, are we in year 4 already?
Full time, yeah.
Wowzer. Now I feel older than I did already.
24 and not quite half, because this will be 25 this year. Yeah.
Okay. So you're old, basically, is what you're saying.
Pretty much.
Okay. So anyway, so let's dive into this topic. So let's use one of the big ones, Zillow, right? So we were Zillow. I don't even know what they called it back in the day. What did they call it?
Zillow Original? No, I really don't know. But
Premiere.
But
no, that's what I think it is now.
Let's even go back.
Preferred.
Before that, it was all about the book.
Oh yeah, we already talked about the book. We're not talking about
MLS book.
That's not a topic.
So
for
now
this
we're
one.
in the modern era. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So anyway, so we started using Zillow back when I joined in the business. So that would have been 2007.
Yep.
And Zillow didn't even syndicate with our MLS yet. So like we had to, if you can imagine this, PT, those 25, 30 listings you were talking about, I had to manually input them in. Not only that, but what was the amount? I remember Brad came home because I was like, okay, hey, things are changing. We're going to have to get on board with some of these things that we haven't done in the past.
Back in 2007.
Yeah.
So it was a couple thousand a month. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. And I said, let's just try it and see how it works. So anyway, we did it for a while. At that time, Zillow operated in a capacity where if you had a listing on their site and somebody was searching that listing and, reached out, you would get connected with listing agent. So obviously for a listing agent, a list heavy, person, it made sense because you wanted control over how your listing was being presented to the public, and it allowed you to do that. Now let's fast forward. Well, we did that for a little while. Then we became whatever the premier preferred agent. We did that for a while. Then we cut back because of what we're going to talk a little bit about here. We really became a referral based business. So we had clients referring us to other clients. So it kind of changed the dynamic. Plus, as we all know, how does Zillow operate now, PT?
That's a great question. I don't know if we all understand it fully. They just spend money and buy everything up. But no, Zillow operates very interesting. Like it's very interesting to see how they operate. And one issue I think that a lot of people run into is when you get in contact with someone through Zillow, you don't know who specifically you're talking with, correct?
But they think that they're calling the listing agent.
Correct. And for the most part, you're not. And that's where it kind of gets
100% you are not.
Yeah, and that's where it kind of gets a little, confusing to the consumer. And it also puts on us to clarify too who we are in this particular relationship in the moment that you are in contact with that person. So it's always the battle of their mindset is I want to work with a listing agent, and that's who I'm calling. For the most part, or like you said, 100% of the time, it's not.
Right. And I guess I want to clarify too, like we're not saying, I mean, we 100%, well, first of all, we don't, as a general rule, practice dual agency. It is still legal in our state. Some of you may be in states where it's not, but we as a general rule do not practice that. So I'm not saying that I want that control over that listing because I want to have the buyer. I just want to make sure it's presented appropriately when someone has questions.
100%. But it's also good that if that call would come to you, that you're not going to represent the buyer, but you would know who to send that to. That would be able to absolutely that they would be able to take care of those people. So that way you're not just getting and I hate to use the word brand new agent. There's some really good brand new agents, but just a random agent that knows nothing about the property.
Well, and we all know about the importance too of timely fashion, right? The biggest thing is once you pick up that phone call, the moment you hang that phone up, you don't know, one, who else is calling them, two, who else they're moving on to. So it gets a little dispersed if it goes immediately. So for example, when a call comes in, if it's like a signed call to Brad and Andrea, and they're the listing agents, they move it on to someone else down on our team. And it's so important because that split second, you don't know who else is going to enter the picture. So with that being said, I think that whole disparity in time management is also a huge thing too.
100%. And I think the big thing is one of the reasons, and we'll get on to a couple of the other websites and just a couple other experiences we've had. But I think the big thing is too, is just from the other thing that frustrates me with Zillow, which I feel like this is a Zillow bashing podcast, which it's not. I mean, they've earned their place in the marketplace. It's just not a place that we want to spend our money and for numerous reasons. Although we use Fall Out Boss and they're owned by Zillow now. And we use Showing Time, which they're owned by Fall Out Boss too. So.
No, they're owned by Zillow.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're owned by Zillow. That's what I meant. Yeah. So either way, you're getting our money. But anyway, but I don't like that also a lot of the information on there is inaccurate. Obviously, we had, Brad, and I'm going to let you speak to this a little bit. For a while there, the Zestimates, which if you notice, Zestimates have kind of gotten pushed down the funnel a little, and they're not as prominent. Why is that, Brad? What happened a few years ago?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. Is that one, other websites have cost estimates now. They're not called Zestimates. That I'm sure that's exclusive to Zillow. But in 2020, everything changed where the home prices went up so much, so fast that the Zestimates weren't even close. And in smaller areas like our metropolitan area, which we're, about 500,000.
The big booming metropolis of the
People
Quad
or so,
Cities.
a little bit less. We have totally different areas. Whereas when you get into these larger cities, you may have an entire city that's basically not exactly the same, but the types of houses, like there's subdivisions that are all in a price point, right?
Sure.
When you get to the older parts of town in the Quad Cities, you might have older homes, and then in the back of these neighborhoods, you may have newer homes that are being averaged in with all the older homes. So, like I always tell people, it's basically what they are doing is they're using price per square foot and location. And if it were that easy, you wouldn't need a realtor
or an appraiser,
or an appraiser that you could just go on to Zillow.
As long as you know how to do math. As long
Zillow
as
understands it. But it's
but weren't there some lawsuits? Do you remember when the Zestimates first came out? I specifically remember the one was it in New York City that it was like this $1 million. Do you remember that one?
I don't, but I can imagine that there were some that were just so far off that it was hurting people's property value too. Right. Yeah.
And so then they put in the little disclaimer, which I don't know if it's still there because again I don't frequent Zillow very often, but it was like hey, I think in some areas, I think ours was one of them, would say the Zestimate can be off by as much as 40 to 50%.
It's a big margin.
Which, yeah.
Hey, wait, if we get to be off by 40 to 50% in our pricing,
that would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
It would be bad, but good.
No, that would be pretty good if you're a real estate agent that everybody would really think you're excellent. If you're within 40% of the price, which, come on, I mean, let's live in reality that why would you need us, right?
Well, the moral of the story is that Zillow is not, they have changed the way they do things. Yep. They're really more in the market of their search engine is so that agents, which some of you who are preferred Zillow, isn't that what they call them now? Preferred Zillow agents, I think.
Right.
That you pay a monthly fee so that if someone is on the Zillow search engine and they click on a listing, then that listing or that person that's inquiring comes to you so that you can try to convert that into a buyer lead. Now, that also changes a little bit too with the EBAs, which is kind of crazy. But I want to talk, the other one that's a big one is Realtor.com. I think they do things a little differently than Zillow. At least their information seems to be more accurate. We've had a personal experience with Realtor.com, which is why we got off of advertising on Realtor.com. We had a client that was a family member of a client we'd worked with numerous times that went on, just like what we were talking about earlier, was looking at a listing, thought that she was connecting to us. They were literally, this is crazy, guys. I wish this call, actually, it would have been recorded. I should have asked for a recording. I don't think they're giving it to me after the words I used with them. But she called in. She thought she was talking to us. When the person, the concierge at Realtor.com, finally came clean that she wasn't being connected to us, she said, well, no, I work with, Brad and Andrea BOEYE. I've worked with them numerous times. My family has. That's who I work with. And the person actually said what, Brad?
I don't remember what they said, but they didn't give the business to us. They gave it to somebody else.
I believe the words were, well, if I could find you an agent that would take better care of you than the BOEYES, would you entertain switching? Boy, was I not happy with that. Yeah. So, I mean, and the funny part is the buyer said, you know what, screw this. I'm going to play the game and see what happens. So she got connected. Yeah. And the agent, who's no longer in the business, which is kind of funny, actually said to the person, it was a Saturday.
That they're too busy.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, no, it was that we didn't work on weekends. Yeah. I know the BOEYES. They don't work on weekends. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so that kind of got us a little bit off of Realtor.com. I do think that Realtor.com has different platforms in regards to their search engines and different options for buyers and sellers and listing agents and buyers agents. So I think I like them a little better, but I still just don't think that's where your money's best spent.
I don't believe so either. And I really think going back to Zillow and Realtor.com, the reason why they've been so successful with the general public is they have excellent mapping features, and and I would even have to say that Zillow is even a little bit easier than Realtor.com is to navigate around. I do find myself at times even going on to Zillow's app and sending the link that it's just very, very easy.
Did you just say that out loud?
I did, yes.
Yeah, well, but that's why they're so successful, though, is because it's a clean, easy, and well-known search engine, right? They spend a crap ton of money to get people to the website, and then it's clean and easy for people to do. All you have to do is just type the address at the top and get all the information. And people like easy and convenient things.
The easier it is, the more often they'll come back.
So, but don't you think? So let's talk. So obviously we have I'm not sure what search engine actually YLOPO uses. I would have to dig through that. Is it IDX Broker?
Correct.
Okay, and that's what our marketing group, I Still Build with Real, uses, IDX Broker, and that's what I'm saying. I think that's a game changer for a lot of things, because now you're seeing some of those same, if not better, search capabilities, and it's allowing agents the opportunity to spend the money there and allow those leads to go directly into your CRM and immediately, reach out to them and connect with them, whether it's you or a member of your team, however you have your leads set up. So I think you're better off spending your money on a really good website that has a great search.
I would agree 100%. And with agents, and you were kind of getting into this, but Zillow, Realtor.com, any of these big brands, they're selling leads back to agents, which I've always thought, what a business plan this is. They're using our data, our listings, and selling them back to us.
Brilliant.
Wow. But
why didn't we think of this?
And people still fall for it.
And they still do. But what's changing, though, I think, and you were getting into this, is when it's become the EBA client, the EBA era, let's just call it that. That's going to be much more difficult. That I think most people are going to be much less willing to sign an exclusive buyer's agency agreement with somebody that has to explain that they are not the listing agent, they've never been in this property, and they maybe have been in the business for a week. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But that's going to make it much harder, I really think, on these companies that a lot of people are probably going to turn away, and they're going to go back to the brokerages where they know that they have experienced agents.
Well, the thing is, too, is a lot of those...
and trained agents.
That's what I was just going to say, is there's a lot of those websites that really... the business model was built on agents who have downlines or networks or whatever you want to call them. Let's call them downlines, or teams like Teamerages and Rainmaker teams, where they're just hiring new agents because they can hire them on at a very high split. And so the team leader gets, kind of credit for that and what they sell. And all those agents are doing is just sitting there calling nonstop leads that are coming in because these people are paying big money. But it's crazy. I would love to see, well, actually I have seen some, the GCIs of those companies, right? And that's why I'm saying I think doubling down on, everybody keeps talking about the way that our business is changing. And I think it's across the board. I don't think it's just real estate. Is in regards to face-to-face quality conversations. People want to work with people that they, Brad...
know, like, and respect.
Trust,
and
respect,
trust.
same thing, yeah. And I just don't know how you can get that. I was listening to a podcast the other day when they were talking about the 4 levels of trust and communication, right? Like the first one is like your face-to-face, like you meet them for lunch or coffee. The second one was an actual phone call. The third one was text messaging. And the last one was like, corresponding via email or online or whatever. So I feel that's why if you look at too, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the agents that we've worked with over the years and even currently that have done a lot of Zillow leads, they seem to always have issues with the buyers and the sellers.
And, I learned this terminology a few years ago, which I would agree with. When you're working lead generation leads, it's a transactional transaction. It's not a relationship transaction. So what that means is that it's not a personal connection. You were hooked up with these people due to a website, not meeting them in person. So they don't have that instant trust in you. They just don't have that loyalty that they don't know you. And that's why I really think that we're getting back to, if you want to stay in this business and you want to do well long term, you better learn that number one, it's a relationship business and not an internet business where you sit around and get leads. I mean, we've heard from several of our agents that, these aren't very good leads. Well, they're right that they're not very good leads, and the reason is they don't know you. These are just random people that are registering on websites, not people that you've met that trust you.
Well, and don't you feel like it's a different kind of buyer, right? And maybe
Absolutely.
PT, maybe your generation, obviously that's the great thing about this is we span such a great broad what am I trying to say? Millennials, Gen Zs, all that. But like for me, I want to talk to a person. I don't want to talk to a computer. If I legitimately am interested, whether it's buying a car, buying a house, buying a new desk, I don't want to talk to the app, right? I want to talk to a person. Is it different in your generation?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how this works, right? I mean, now more than ever, it's easier to get in connection with somebody quicker. And
is it really a person though? That's my next question.
But that's the thing is I think that a lot of people that are younger are just used to being able to things at the snap of their finger happen, right? Mm-hmm. And so with that happening, I think that people will actually give more than push in that realm, especially with these younger generations coming up, is because everything's through the phone, right? And with that being said, I think that's why people are having a lot of success with that still too, though, because yes, it's important to make your phone calls. And if you really want to build a relationship business, you have to pick up the phone. You have to meet people in person. But there's also that group of people that
you can call them and they'll text you back.
Yeah, they don't. There's just people that don't want to talk on the phone, yes. And it's more and more common in the younger generations. So yeah, you have to be aware of that. But I think that's why also it's like very misleading when we have like a Zillow. If you have a Zillow lead come through, because there's like
I mean they just assume that you're the listing agent,
right,
which is wrong.
Or they either assume that you're the listing agent, or the reason why they're on that website to begin with is because they think that they're somehow going to connect with the listing agent to cut someone else out of the deal, which now that doesn't apply anymore, obviously, with EBAs. I mean, there's no longer the option of that situation. But They just think that, oh, well, if I just call the listing agent, then I can get the home and it's going to be a better deal because there's not going to be a buyer's agent involved. But
or they don't even know about that.
Yeah.
They don't have anything. They just think that this is the number I should call and this is how it's going to get done. They don't know about the process. They don't know about a buyer's agent. They don't know about a listing agent.
Right.
And so just the nuisance of not knowing the process is also a part
and a lot
of
of
it too.
these, let's really face it, a lot of these that are going on these websites and registering are probably younger people that have never bought a house before.
Sure.
Or older people that have never bought a house before. I would bet, and I don't have the research, but I would bet the vast majority of online leads are first-time home buyers. That most people that have bought a house in the past, they probably know
Or
an
investors.
agent, or investors too. Yeah, that want to work directly with the listing agent, and that's what they assume that they are doing, and they're not. But yeah, I mean, I really think a lot of those though are.
Well, and the other thing that's kind of blown my mind, and I should have pulled some of these stats. I meant to do this before we had this conversation, but even so, our local marketing group website and our Brad BOEYE website, it's crazy to me. So some of our media providers have, like a platform for that media, and there's a back end to that where you can see the statistics for where the leads that are looking at your pictures and your media are coming from. It blows my mind. And maybe the Quad Cities is just a unique market, but it blows my mind because very rarely am I seeing a Zillow. Am I seeing a Realtor.com? I'm seeing our local site. I am seeing some Instagram, some Facebook, social media. That's a whole other game.
Yeah.
And then, you're seeing some trickle in of some of the local brokerage sites, but for the most part, it's not. It's direct to what we're putting out there, which either that means we're all doing a really good job of how we're rebranding and putting our information out there, or people are just getting tired of being, I don't know, misled, I guess, in a way. I would feel misled. I'm sorry. If I was a consumer going to buy a house and I thought I was connected to the listing agent and then I just would feel
It just doesn't give you you just are like, I've been misled, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you're not the listing agent?
Yeah. But I think the honest truth is that the majority doesn't know.
Yeah.
The majority doesn't know that these stats or these pictures or the status hasn't been updated in a week or two. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know any better. And so I think to where you see those numbers, Andrea, is that those are probably just how the marketing plan is set up. We've done a phenomenal job of making sure that our avenues and our websites and our lead capturing systems are the place that we direct people to. So
would you venture to guess though that the average agent, that most of those are probably still coming from Zillow, Realtor? It's just because of how we market that's probably the reason.
I think a lot of people don't know any different, right? I think that if you've not really, and I would love to hear, so when this podcast airs, what I would love to hear, and I would love some feedback. I mean, reach out, DM one of us. I mean, if you're one of those people that has your main source of business is leads from Realtor.com and
I'd
Zillow.
love to hear it.
And I guess what I'm going to also caveat that to say is if you've been in the business for, let's say 5+ years, and that's your main source of business, is that the only place you're getting business, or are you seeing those clients as repeat clients? The ones you initially got from a Zillow or a Realtor.com or gosh, help you with Redfin. I don't know. That's another one. Can you go in your database and tell me that you've worked with them? We have clients in our database in your 24 years that we've worked with 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So if that's happening, all right, well then maybe
it's worth it probably.
Yeah, right. But if you're just constantly on the hamster wheel and you're constantly, drolling, what do you do? What do you
Rolling the dice?
Throwing the money. What do you call it? Doling out money?
Burning money? I don't know.
Then you're on a never ending
Hamster wheel.
Yeah. That's never going to change. And so once you stop spending the money, then you stop getting the business. So is that really the direction you want to go? I mean, for me, it's not. For us, it's not. It's not how we've built our business.
Not at all. But don't you really think that you need to have a combination of it all? Like, I'm not saying you need to be heavy into lead generation, but I really think that needs to be a part of your business plan.
Well, yeah, but don't you
It's
think
not-
lead generation comes from more? This is my point, I guess. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. And I think that when I came on board with you, it's something that I doubled down on with you is that it is, again, more personal connections. Like,
100%,
go have coffee, go have lunch, get involved in your community. Those are the people. And I guarantee you, actually, and we know this because we went through it. You go look through your database, and those are the people that are becoming not only clients, but friends and your biggest source of referrals. I'd much rather have a referral from them than Zillow.
Oh,
I mean,
100%,
and if Zillow was doing so great, I mean, it's the end of the year when we're recording this podcast. I should have got my phone. How many times have they called you in the last 30 days?
A lot.
Yeah, me too. PT, are you getting the calls?
Of course.
I mean, so clearly they must have some people that are dropping this year. I mean,
And
so
it's incredibly expensive too.
because we know there's not more buyers, right? Well, maybe there's more buyers, but there's not more inventory. There's got to be a reason why they're calling all of us, because somebody's not paying their bills or not able to pay their bills.
Right. I mean, that's and I will give them a little bit of credit, though. I mean, they are very innovative. When they try something and it doesn't work, they usually kind of pivot. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do with, having less transactions right now. And we'll get into the 2025 predictions at some point. But I really think in 2025 we may have a few more, but I don't think it's going to be a crazy year.
I just think that there will always be a need for their services for some people's business models.
Sure.
100%.
Yeah, and they know that. They know that they're, they play to a certain type of business or a certain type of person. And that's just how they do it. They know exactly what they're doing. And they're the largest search engine in real estate.
Yeah.
So they're not going away. And they've pivoted with DEBAs, and they tried different things. And I don't think it worked out too well for them, but they're always going to be able to figure out a way to stay relevant.
Yeah.
They're not going away.
Well, and just to kind of close this, I guess what my recommendation is, if you're someone that is spending the money on one of those sites, I would really challenge you to sit down, go through your business, where your business is coming from, where your repeat business is coming from, and just really, figure out your ROI.
What was the actual cost, right?
Right. Figure out your ROI and figure out if that's the best business model for you. If it is, great. I mean, super. That's fine, because then that means there's, more of the
I'm
other.
just going to go on record right now.
Oh, geez, here we go.
I'm going to say that most of the top real estate agents in the United States of America do not concentrate on Zillow leads
Or Realtor.com.
or
Homes. We forgot about Homes.com
any
too.
lead
Oh, Lord.
generation, right? Their main business, bread and butter, is and I'm starting to sound old, but it is the old-fashioned way of going out and meeting people and building a brand and having people know who you are.
Well, and it's part of the life cycle too, right? I mean, it doesn't end at the closing table.
Right.
You have to continue to build a relationship with your client. And that's where I think that the majority, and you never know. I mean, like I said earlier about these people, they really don't understand the process. And yes, once you go through it, you understand it. But on average, a person knows 13 to 14 realtors. So where in that 13 to 14 people, why are they still going on Zillow? What is the thought process
we all
to that?
suck at communicating what we do for a living.
Exactly, and that's where in the life cycle it doesn't end at the closing table. It continues on, and the systems that you use and your personal conversations and touches continue on to retain those people, to keep them off Zillow and keep them within your CRM.
Yeah, you have to be more than a door opener, and you have to, make sure. That's what I was just going to say to PT is like, at the end of the day, it's our job to educate the public on what it is that we do and what we offer to our clients, whether it's from a listing standpoint or a buyer standpoint. It's not just about clicking on a link and us picking up a phone and opening the door for you. It's way more than that, and you're 100% correct that that's what we need to do a better job as an industry of explaining, for sure.
100%. And be less transactional and more relationship based. Hey, we said it at the same time.
Because that's how you get out of the cycle.
Yes.
Just to end this episode, I mean, if you're looking to get outside of the hamster wheel of just consistently lead generation, then maybe the spot you need to look at is how are you nurturing your past clients or your sphere or something like that. Because like you said, at some point, I think everyone wants to move to a referral business.
Right.
How do you do that?
Yep.
Well, and lead generation is more than just search engines. I think that's exactly what you're trying to get at, PT, is that that's what people think of lead gen as. And lead gen is really taking care of your past clients and your sphere and your database. And there you go.
Totally agree.
Wrap it.
Done.